Madrid has been plunged into chaos after a powerful storm swept across the Spanish capital, bringing torrential rain, gale force winds and flash flooding that left entire neighborhoods underwater. In just few hours, more than a month was in rain, overwhelming drainage and transformed streets into fast-flowing rivers. Cars were swept away, metro stations flooded, and power lines collapsed, plunging parts of the city in darkness. It was terrified, said Lauza Fernandez, a shop assistant who was received from the standard car. The water rose so quickly, I thought I would make it out alive. Authorities confirmed several fatalities and dozens of injured. Hundreds of residents were evacuated from basements in low-lying homes and emergency service working around the clock, often wading chest deep through the floodwaters. Public transportation suffered severe disruption. Madrid metro network were particularly shut, while train and buses forced long delays. Barras International Airport suspended flight for several hours, stranded passengers amidst scenes of confusion. Tourists were also caught in the chaos, with landmarks like Puerta del Sol and Plaza Major submerged. Video shared online showed hailstones bouncing across historic squares and water pouring down the steps of the Prada Museum. In surrounding region, farmland was badly hit. Vineyards and olive groves were inundated just weeks before harvest, threatening significant agricultural losers. Economists warned the storm financial toll could run into hundreds of millions euros. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by a clash between humid Mediterranean air cold Atlantic front intensified by record summer heat. Experts warn that climate change is increasing to frequency such extreme weather events across the Spain, already one of Europe's most climate vulnerable nations. A violent storm has battered Germany, causing strong winds, torrential rain and widespread disruption north from the North Sea to Bavaria. The system, one of the worst intense of the season, was approached through a storm of roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people without power. In Hamburg and Bremen, storm surge flooded riverside neighborhoods and emergency crews rushed to build bird as the Elbe River overflowed. In Berlin, fallen trees blocked major roads in the tram lines, forcing communities to find alternative routes. Munich International Airports reported more than 100 cancelled flights, while trains in Bavaria and Saxony were halted due to the debris in tracks. Authorities confirmed multiple fatalities, including driver crushed by the fallen trees and the rescue workers swept away by the floodwaters. Dozens of people were injured by many debris flying through the city center. Hospital reported an increase in emergency admissions overnight. Residents described the storm as apocalyptic. The wind sounded like a freight train outside my window. We were building and shaking, said Anne Miller, a resident of Berlin. A powerful Atlantic storm swept across much of Europe, bringing hurricane-force winds, torrential rain, and chaos in several countries, from the Atlantic coast of France and inland cities in Germany. Millions of people forced transport disruption and emergency service worked at full capacity. In France, where guests exceeded 115 km/h, knocked down trees, cut power to more than 400,000 homes, and forced several airports to close. It sounded like a fire train was passing through the our streets, said Louis Martin, the residents of Brittany, where routes had blocked overnight. Southern Germany was hit by severe flooding when rivers burst at their banks. In Bavaria, rescue evacuated dozens of residents by boat after the local dam threatened to overflow. We never seen the water rise too fast, explained firefighters Karl Neumann. Rail service in the region remains severely disrupted. In the Netherlands, authorities temporarily closed its section to famous Afsluitdijk dam due to fear and a coastal wave. Meanwhile, Poland and Czech Republic reported widespread hailstorm that severely damaged cars and groups. Farmers estimated the dramatic at $1 million euros, especially in vineyards that produced world-famous wines. It's devastating, said Jean-Paul Lefroy, a winemaker near Lyon. In just 10 minutes, the works and the entire season was destroyed. Further east in Croatia and Slovenia, hailstones the size of eggs smashed windows and stripped trees bare. Emergency service worked through the night and cleared debris to restore power to affected areas. Local authority described the damage as serious and extensive. Meteorologists across Europe are linking the surge and severe hailstorm to rising temperature and atmospheric instability. The Mediterranean is warming faster than the global average, warning climatologist Dr. Yelena Moretti. This creates ideal conditions to explosive storm to formation of giant hailstorm. The European Severe Laboratory reported that more than 400 hail-related incidents were recorded in 34 hours of extremely high number of October. Experts warn that such events once considered rare and now becoming more common due to the effects of climate change. Cleanup efforts are underway across the continent and insurance companies are assessing the extent of the damage. From broken skylets in Rome and flooded streets in Munich and storage fury that what yet another stark reminder that Europe weather is becoming more unpredictable and dangerous than ever before. Several meteorologists, including lines 1, 4, and 13, experienced major distortion as the water swept in the station. Communities forced long delay with a rapid urgent residents to avoid necessary travel. Power outage left more than 25,000 homes in the dark, particularly in the Paris southern suburbs. The storm also damaged parts in the ELF tower lighting system, forcing engineers to shut it off to safety inspirations. Lighting stuck near Notre Dame Cathedral, creating dramatic by the homeless flash captured by onlookers. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo urged calm, praising first response to the swift action. Our city was forced severe weather before, but the intensity of the last night's storm show how climate change is amplifying these events, she said. We will assist all those affected. They strengthened our flood resilience. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most violent in decades as a result of a powerful Atlantic depression scalding with warm continental air from the northern France. Experts warn that such extreme weather events could become more frequent if Europe's climate continues to warm. By morning, Parisians emergency to survive the damaged streets, literally the branches flooded, cave terrace and disrupted train schedule. Yet a month after month when also relapsed, clear skies returned the city resilient spirit shone through the once again.
Jusqu'à Messenger, je te sens dans Messenger, c'est impressionnant.
In Germany, the state of Bavaria and North Rhine-Westphalia were hit hard. Rail services were suspended in several regions after fallen trees damaged overhead lines, with their schools remaining closed in precipitation. Dutch Brown warning passengers in significant delays in cancellation. Meteorologists attributed the extreme weather and deep Atlantic low pressure system golden with the unstoppably warm continental air and volatile mix and intensified the storm power. Dr. Elena Richer from the European Climate Observatory stated, "We are witness more frequent and violent weather patterns to shift atmospheric circulated linking to climate change. The storm also caused coastal surge in Netherlands and Belgium. The authority reinforcing flood a very out along the vulnerable zone. In Amsterdam, channels overflowing, forcing evacuation in low-lying districts. EPOD across Europe, including Frankfurt, Paris channels and Madrid-Bercia, reported flight cancellation and diversions extended thousands of traveling overnight.
Ajde, capo meu.
Europe is riddled after the wave of powerful storms swept across the continent, bringing hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, hail and flooding from Spain to Poland. Authorities have confirmed dozens of fatalities and hundreds of injured, with hundreds of thousands of households remain without electricity. In France, Paris, hammered by heavy rain, is alighting forced to close the metro lines and grounded flights to Charlie the airport. Streets and flying and boardwalks turned into rivers. An emergency crew reported more than 5,000 clouds overnight. Germany also brought to breath with a tornado-like wind North Rhine-Westphalia, ripping roofs to homes and uprooted trees. Rail service were suspended, highways blocked, and the school closed to official urged residents to stay indoors. It felt like the sky exploded, said Jens Fischer, with so-called lifted to overturned by sudden gusts. In Italy, Venice and Milan were swept by the flash floods, while the Rome enduring the violent hailstorm that shattered windows and damaged cars. Authorities warned to rising river levels in the north, in the fear of further flooding in the Po Valley. Spain forcing massive coastal swells and lightning storms, particularly in Barcelona and Valencia, where the Poland and Czech Republic struggled with the power cuts and transportation shutdowns after gale force winds across Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days while thousands of travelers were stranded with the train station. Insurance provider estimates the damage could reach billions of euros after gale force winds across the Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days with thousands of Mediterranean said the storm system was following the coastal line by Mediterranean air called Atlantic Front, creating a volatile chain reaction across Europe. Scientists warn the climate change is making such extreme wide-reaching weather events increasingly frequent. A powerful storm system was battered much of Europe, leaving a trail of destruction, transport, chaos, and a human tragedy in this way. The storm, which brought hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, and heavy snowfall in high areas, has affected countries such as France, Germany, Poland, Austria, and Balkans. In Paris, wind knocked down trees and damaged roofs, while trains and flights were delayed. In Bavaria, Germany, hail and strong gusts battered small towns, breaking windows and damaged vehicles. The Netherlands reported severe coastal flooding as waves to 6-meter-high hit decks and pots. Authorities confirmed at least a dozen fatalities across the continent, including drivers caught in flash flooding and persistent stuck by fallen debris. Hundreds of thousands of homes were left without power overnight, and emergency service received thousands of calls. Witnesses described terrified conditions. The roof of our town was lifted up and a few away in where paper said now working the South Poland. In Austria, sky reports were cut off by avalanches, trapped tourists and the staff. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept through the parts of Germany, France, and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured, with the homes destroyed, cars overturned, and power lines downed. Western Germany was the hardest hit, with the powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area, poured down, injured dozens of people, and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted, and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a fire train rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado struck near Trastevere, Colli overturned tracks on the A80 motorway and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in the hail, lightning and stones when battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic still resilient from the devastation tornado in 2021, reported another severe storm in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency service rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers working through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mass of hot Mediterranean air collided with a cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries suffered serious damage. Rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors formed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe begins the long process of recovery, the tornado several stuck reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now processes to grow through to here to the continent. We are dealing with a widespread roof damage and power outage, said Bavarian Fire Chief Markus Keller, who described the situation as apocalyptic. In southern France, vineyard and orange severely damaged, with some region exploded, reported a total loss of crops. Farmers in province of Rhône-Alpes region experienced a disaster after huge hailstones destroyed their vineyards. The storm took everything. Limited windmark pulp, Gerard, the harvest we have been waiting for all year is gone. In Central and Eastern Europe, hailstorm intensified it. In Poland, the city of Krakow was hit by torrential rain, with freezing rain that flooded streets and damaged cars. In Austria, large hailstorms caused flights, delays and forced airports at the close temperatures. Meteorologists attributed this storm weather is unstable atmospheric layers, which are intensified due to global warming. Europe is now experiencing for more connective storms, phenomena accompanied by supercell lightning and giant hailstones, explained Dr. Petra Long in European Meteorological Observatory. This is not a longer rarity, is becoming part of new normal. Authorities across the continent continue to assess the damage, warning the future determination is weather conditions, while cleanup crews work to repair the damage caused by the ice storm. Many residents describe the surreal scene. Some streets transformed into winter landscape in a matter of minutes.
يا الله شباب هطول عنيف جدا 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 الزلة دفاق.
On Monday, tornadoes swept through the area in North Parish, knocking down trees, construction cranes, killing one person and seriously injuring four others, authorities say. The town of Airmont, located about 20 km northwestern of Parish, was hardest hit, with a sudden whirlwind damaged about 10 neighborhoods. Regional professor Jill Rebras said 23-year-old construction worker died at a construction site and 10 people were injured, for them critically. Authorities said the tornado knocked down cranes and turned off-road. Interior Minister Larry News said to Platform X that was a storm, sudden of rare intensity. He added, "I am closely monitoring the situation and experienced by a supportive official. Rescue at the scene the affected residents. I offer my condolences on the family and loved one of the deceased." Paris, the French capital, was brought to standstill on Wednesday, and the night a sudden and violent storm swept across northern France, unleashing torrential rain, furious winds, and dramatic lightning over the heart of Paris. Within just 19 minutes, more than 100 millimeters of rain fell in a hardest downpour recorded in over 2 decades. Several European countries are assessing the damage after severe hailstorm swept across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction from France and Italy to Germany, Austria and Switzerland. The storm intensified the unstoppable air masses that collided over Central Europe, produced hailstones the size of a tennis ball that mashed a car, damaged roofs and injured hundreds of people. In northern Italy, cities in Lombardy and Veneto saw streets covered in ice, and hospitals treated dozens and partying for cars in a heat injury caused by broken glass. In Bavaria, Germany, cars were left covered in dents and vineyards suffered catastrophic damage. "It was like bombing," saying Hans Killer, a farmer near Munich. "In 10 minutes, our entire harvest were destroyed." Austria, also facing chaos in emergency service, responded to collapsed roofs and blocked highways. In Switzerland, tourists in Lorenz and Alps captured dramatic footage in hailstorms, pulled it up like snowdrifts, transformed summer landscape in winter owns. Flights in Zurich and Geneva airports were delayed and cancelled after hail-damaged parked planes. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the collisions between the Mediterranean air and the cold northern front, exactly than the recorded summer heat across Europe. Scientists warn that climate change is contributed to more frequent and destructive hailstorms, adding the continent growing climate-related problems. Agriculture has been hit hardest, heat damaged estimates of hundreds and millions of euros. Vineyard, orange and cornfield across Central Europe has been destroyed, threatening both in local economy and a food supply chain. Insurance companies are already preparing for one of the most expensive weather events in the year. Government has promised to provide assistance and clean up on the aftermath and the initial disaster by sending soldiers in a rural area to clear roads and protect damaged homes from the further rain. However, for the many residents, the storm was stuck remaining in the increasing severity of extreme weather events. The Spanish region of Valencia has been hit by a severe storm that has brought torrential rain, violent winds and severe flooding, leaving streets submerged and continues struggle to recover. Meteorologists say a system filled the most shoe by Mediterranean dumped more than 200 mm of rain in just 24 hours, one of the most intense downpour in decades. Entire neighborhoods in the city of Valencia were left underwater, and the residents were forced to wade through waist-deep water. Emergency service carried out hundreds of rescue, including drivers trapped in submerged cars and families evacuated from ground floor apartments. At least 4 fatalities have been confirmed, while dozens of people have been injured by falling debris and traffic incidents. The part of Valencia, one of the barest in Europe, was temporarily closed after crane that knocked down by strong winds disrupted shipments across the Mediterranean. Public transport was brought in a standstill, subway lines were suspended, flights were diverted, and rail services were cancelled throughout the region.
ما شاء الله تبارك الله، سيول قوية جدا، وادي بيض الآن طريق بيش الدرب. شوفوا قوة السيل ما شاء الله.
Several European nations have been struck by a wave of violent hailstorm, leaving behind the scene of chaos, destruction, and disbelief. From northern Italy to southern Germany, Austria, and parts of France, residents awakened the road coated in ice, damaged vehicles, and crews destroyed it in the fields. Meteorologists say the storm were followed by the clash of moist Mediterranean air with a strong cold front from the northern Europe, creating a supercell condition. Hailstorms, some larger than golf ball, powdered the city center and rural area alike. In Munich, cars were left with the shattered widespread, while the Bologna, Italy public transport was paralyzed. The hail-covered tram stack. Agriculture Associational report severe losses. Vineyard in Tuscany and orange in Austria suffered significant damage, with the farmers describing the storm as worse than the case. One farmer near Verona lamented, "In 10 minutes we lost what we had worked for all year." Emergency services were inundated with the calls. Dozens of injuries were reported, mainly from the falling hail and the raw accident caused by sudden ice flakes. Firefighters in Austria rescued motorists stranded on a highway blackened in ice, while the France-Rhone Valley flooded added the crisis and a hail-blocked drains. Video shattered widely online showed iconic city squares buried under a layer of ice, sparked disbelief among the viewers. Tourists caught in the storm described as apocalyptic in the like winter in the middle of summer. Experts warn that Europe have seen a rise in extreme hail events in recent years, while the climate change likely intensified with wild. Scientists know that the winter air cold must be soon falling stronger storm capable of production large destructive hail. Several music festivals and outdoors events were cancelled, leaving thousands of visitors stranded in makeshift shelters. Switzerland too reported significant damage. In Zurich and Lorentz, public transport was suspended as a hail closed rail lines and flooded tram tunnels. Airways saw delays, where insurers prepared for the decided one of the most expensive summer storms in recent years. Hospitals across affected countries treated hundreds of injuries from cuts of barriers and the most serious trauma caused by the fallen debris. Power outage hit tens of thousands of homes, while schools and businesses closed in the hardest hit regions. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by the collisions of humid Mediterranean air with the cold northern winds, producing intense supercells capable of generating giant hail. Scientists warn such events are becoming more frequent as Europe warned. We are seeing a climate shift, say climatologist Dr. Eva Schinder. Storms like these, once rare, are now growing through it. Despite the disruption, communities are relevant. Volunteers cleared streets of ice, neighborhood shattered fruits, and extended travels, and an emergency crew worked tirelessly to restore power. As Europe begin counting the cost and a hailstorm severe as another stark reminder of nature growing volatility and the urgent need to resilience in affairs of climate experts. Farmers in Lower Saxony reported devastation, losers in their crops and greenhouses, and about destroyed it. Insurance experts warned that the damage could cost millions, placing an additional burden on the economy elderly and person. Germany Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed condolences of the family to the victims and promised swift federal aid. "We stand together in the face of this catastrophe," he said, adding the climate adaptation must become a national priority. Meteorologists warn the storm and the magnitude may become more frequent as a warning season to call unstoppable weather across North Europe. At a time, rescue operations continue in flooded town in the mountains valley, with the soldiers, firefighters, and volunteers working side by side. For many Germans, in storm will be remembered not only the force but a stark reminder of the growing risk of climate change. powerful storm swept across France, caused destructive wind, torrential rain, and widespread flooding that left millions of people homeless. Authorities say it's one of the most severe weather events in the country in recent years. The Atlantic coast was hardest hit by the storm, with the wind gusts reaching 116 km/h in the Brittany and Normandy. Streets were littered, the fallen trees roots were torn off, houses and boats crashed into the harbour wall. It was one of the sea wanted to swallow the city, said fisherman Alain Dupont from the Saint Malo, describing the waves crashing about the pier. Paris was not spared either. Heavy rain overwhelmed the capital drainage system, flooding parts of the metro and forcing passengers at the west through the neck-deep water. Emergency service responded to more than 700 calls across the country in just 24 hours. Power outage affected nearly half a million people, particularly in the western region, and utility companies working around the clock to restore service.